Hello everyone, it's Miss Darling in the studio. I thought I would invite you along as I play. I'm doing some experimenting and let me show you what I'm talking about. I have a whole bunch of useless CDs and I bet you do too. And so I thought, well, rather than throw them away, maybe I could recycle them into something pretty nice, pretty different, that could be used as a filler for a journal, or could be used as a large focal point, for instance on a cover, like maybe something like this. This was a CD, and still is a CD, but I have collaged on top of it and turned it into something quite more attractive and that could work beautifully as filler or even as a focal point on a cover for a journal of this style and in this color palette. So I thought, well, why don't you come along, because I'm going to be playing here with all different methods of covering some of these CDs, and I'm just going to have fun. I'm really not going to be thinking all that much about if I can use it in the future or not. I just want to have fun, and we'll see where it takes us. So I got a jump start, and I cut out this piece of fabric, which I'm going to glue down to a CD, and then embellish it with some coordinated little, just strips of fabrics, and see how I like it. So what I suggest that you do first, which I did not do to that one, but I suggest that you, because the surface of these are so shiny, that you take some gesso. Could be clear, could be white, could be any color. Some gesso, and paint over the surface with gesso. That will give it a matte surface and kind of a little bit rough, and so your glue is going to have something to hold on to. And I think in the long run, your decorated CDs will hold up better if you first do some gessoing. Though, I'm experimenting and I don't know that for sure, but I'm guessing because it is a shiny surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply, this is just regular PVA glue, because I'm working with a large piece of fabric. Let me take off my distance glasses so I can see what I'm doing up close. So I'm covering this with glue, and it is adhering very nicely to the gesso. And I probably should have just glued one half of it, but we'll see how it lays down. Oop, don't want you hiding in there. And just have to slide it. If you need to adjust it, you want to do it right away before the glue sets up. Otherwise, you won't be able to move it. So I'm just making sure that all of my edges are covered with fabric. And it looks pretty good. Let's See, I think we'll want to kind of burnish it down with the bone folder. Don't want any bubbles forming up, you know, within it, which could possibly happen as it dries. Don't want to put too much glue on. I see that in places I maybe got it a little too thick with the glue because it's working its way through the fabric and coming up. It will dry clear, but I would just prefer that it didn't seep through. On the other hand, I'm going to be laying down these little swatches, so it really doesn't matter. It's probably going to be covered over anyway. So I'm going to do, you know, something just real basic. These don't have to be super fancy. You can make them as fancy as you want. Just bear in mind that the more layers you would put on, the thicker it gets, and then that could possibly make a journal not lie as flat as it could otherwise. But again, we tend to stuff them so full of stuff anyway, they're never going to lie flat. So, you know, just do what makes you happy. And so I think pull out a piece of plastic here, and so I've got something to glue against, and I'm just going to take some of my excess glue on my little sponge applicator here and pull it off onto the little swatches. Now you could also do this with fabric glue. I decided to use a brush and PVA glue so that it would be a little more consistent and hold everything down. I tend to be not get my glue everywhere I possibly need it to go if I use my glue from a tube. So feel free to craft along with me, and let's just have some fun. I'm going to be quiet much of the time, maybe throw some music in at the end, and if you want to watch what I'm doing, feel free to do so, and if you just want to do your own thing along with me, I hope you will. I'm going to be experimenting throughout this video and trying different things, so I hope you'll stay with me and see what all I come up with. It's going to be hopefully a little different for every CD that I decorate. Okay, so now I've got a fabric covered one, which would be great in a you know, black and white or any kind of neutral, although I can see it's coming out on the sides. I didn't quite get it laid in there as perfectly as I thought I was doing. Shucks. But I'm just going to trim off the sides that are poking out. Okay, I have 2 done. Now, for the next one, by the way, when I was preparing the bottom piece of fabric, I just turned it over and took a pen with white ink and drew around the circumference of the CD and then cut it out with scissors, and then I also cut out the hole in the middle too, which is optional. You don't have to cut that out if you don't want. If you see here, I covered the hole up. Now this is great. For instance, if you're going to be gluing these down to a journal page or a cover or something, then you don't have to mess with what's on the reverse side. But if they're just going to be a loose filler, I would suggest that you also cover the reverse as well, so it looks beautiful on both sides. Now, let's see. I have my disposable palette here. And let's get a little better organized. Don't need that down here. Alright, I'm going to use some acrylic this time, and I think I'll stay with a sponge applicator, but I'm just going to lay some color in kind of an abstract method. Here you are. I have this Atelier Paint Interactive Acrylic in brown black. It's one of my faves. And so I think I'm going to start with this. This one I'm going to do with an applicator or a brush, and I maybe the next one or another one yet today I might do something just with my fingers, which I like painting with my fingers. It kind of gives a whole different vibe. Be a little more loose and what do I want to say? Less formal. I could also tear off a piece of this beautiful washi. Well, you want to at least make sure that the surface of your CD is covered opaquely so that nothing that, any text or writing that you did in the past, you don't want any of that to show through. So let's try a little bit of this Liquitex Iridescent Rich Copper. It's been a while since I used some of these paints. I have no idea. I think we're going to go a little more free. Let me put a little over here of that. You just throw it down. 'Cause if it's going to wind up as a background, it really doesn't matter too much what you do. Ugh. That's awfully dry. I don't know if this one is going to be usable. There we come. That's really dry. So let's... Sorry about that. Let's put a little water with it. You really should use water, some water with your acrylics anyway. This is just really too dry. But it's a pretty color. I like the color, but it's awfully dry. You might want to do quite a few different things all at one time, just mass produce, or should I say mass decorate the backgrounds, and then you can always come back later and collage something on top or paint something. Okay, let's try a little bit of black. Okay, that's nice and wet. Okay, so what we got there, it's a little bit messy looking right now, and you know what I'm going to try? I don't know if this will do anything or if this is the wrong time to try this, but let's just try to kind of squiggle some lines in here. Oh yeah, yeah, look at that. So this could, nope, that didn't work. You gotta definitely do it while it's still pretty wet, or it won't work. So all I did was I took the end of a small paintbrush and just squiggled my lines in there. And yeah, glad I thought of that right at the last second. So I'm going to put this off to dry. And I like those colors so well. I think I'll keep some of them and introduce one or two new colors. Okay. So I'll try a little more brown black again. You could, of course, squeeze your paint colors right out onto your palette and work from your palette instead of the way I'm doing it. Heavy cream, Paper Artsy, Fresco Finish, Chalk Acrylics, Heavy Cream. And because that's light, I put it in the middle there between some of the writing because I know it's not going to be as opaque as the straight acrylics. Oop. This is the same brand in terracotta. All right. Wait a little too long there, it dried out on me. I love scribbling on my work. It is something I've done for decades. Alright, now I'm going to change my color palette. We're going to move away from all these neutrals, and I'm going to okay, if you've been watching my recent videos, you know that I've been doing a craft, a booklet made from number 10 envelopes, and my color palette was this. And so I think I'm going to try and paint a few to look good on that. Even that, you know, looks good, but I'm going to try to get especially some of those purple colors. And I think they're kind of buried a bit at the bottom out here. Here are some of them. Okay. Luminous. I don't need two of those. Maybe we'll take one of those. Okay. So I got a fresh applicator, and so we'll experiment with some of this. Isn't that pretty? This luminous rose. Oh, look what happened. Oh dear. That's such a huge glob of paint. Let's put it on a large portion of a new CD. Didn't mean to wind up doing two at one time, but cobalt violet. Try a little of this. And I'm going to, I don't want this to all dry up on me before I can do some squiggling, so I'm going to squirt a little bit of water there to keep the paint wet. This one's a little bit drier in consistency than the others. So I'm going to squirt it a little bit. And I want to add some marigold in here to make it pop. Ugh. Is that not gorgeous? You see it's a bit on the transparent side. Just add a little more paint, you know. You definitely don't want any uglies showing through. Okay. I think I'll try a little green over here. And mixing that with that orange, it might go brown on me. We'll see. Alright, I think I'll throw in a little bit of okay. One last light squirt of water, and let's hope for the best. Okay, I don't have any uglies popping through, so put a little slash in there with my nail. I'll touch that up. All gone. What do you think? Pretty, huh? I may come back and paint these on the reverse side. Just bear in mind when you are painting the reverse, you might want to do something to cover over the front. See how that one came out? You might want to do something over the front to protect them if you're going to paint on the reverse. Would hate to see something get all messed up. Okay, now got a couple more here. What do we want to do with them? This is going a little faster than I thought it would. And so, okay, we've done acrylic. We've done one fabric and one paper collage. Get that big glob out of there. Okay. What can we do next? I think I may have to pause the video so I can think of what I might want to try next, so I don't waste your time, and maybe clean up here a little bit and then move on if I come up with another idea. Okay? Back in a second. Okay, I've cleaned up here. I think I have maybe an idea that might work out, but we'll just have to see. And what I have to do first is to paint my background white so none of this ugliness shows through. And then I'll show you what I'm going to try to do. Again, we're just experimenting. So while these are drying, I'll take a break and talk with Swoop, who's trying to get a hold of me. So I'll be back when these are dry. Okay, I wound up having to put 2 coats of this white paint on it to get a thick enough coverage so that it doesn't show through any of the uglies underneath. Let me just warn you, if you're going to use a heat gun to speed up the drying process, keep it well away from the CD, because you know you don't want to warp this. You know, you want it to stay nice and flat. So these are my extras that I have not put any gesso on yet. So now my idea for this, I've got this pretty lace, has a real nice pattern. It's nice and flat, easy to work with, and so I'm going to cut off a large piece, and I'm going to glue this down to my discs. So that's going to be step 1. So I'm going to take some of this PVA glue to do this. Remove the lace quickly, and then I'm going to put a thin coat. Don't want to go heavy on this. Just a real thin coat of glue down. Hope this works out. I think it will. And you could, you know, I'm working with lace on these 2, but you know, it could be anything, fabric or paper, you know, just use your imagination and come up with ideas of your own based on the supplies you have at hand. Don't go buy something new in order to try this. Use what you have. Okay, so we're dropping that in. I'm going to use a tissue to press this down onto the glue. Some of it's not adhering very well. Wonder if I went a little too thin on the glue. So I'm going to add more over here. And try again. You don't know till you try it. I think I'll just concentrate on one at a time now. Sometimes you can mass produce and sometimes you can't. Yeah, that's better. That's my phone telling me to take my meds, which I will do in a minute. And it doesn't want to hold out here. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the way temporarily. I'm going to bring out my glue gun. And I'm holding it, you know, like a foot away. Okay, I'm going to cut this off and release it from the other one. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, when this dries, I'm going to put a coat of matte medium over it to seal that lace in place so it never pops up or gets pulled up in any way. It's very fine, if you can see. It's got these little fine lines connecting that makes it look like crackle paint. But it's just the lace doing that. So I'm going to let this dry and we'll come back and work on this one. And you do have to use more glue on it than I thought was going to be necessary. Try to make sure your lace is quite thin if you're going to use this idea. My glue is starting to harden on me over here. Pretty goopy. Okay. Oh crap. I just pulled the lace completely off. I thought this was my spare lace. And I just totally pulled it off my CD. I can't believe I did that. Am I going to show it to you? Yes, indeed, I'm going to show it to you. Ugh. I hope it'll stick. Now, what I do with the spare lace? I pulled it off and here it is. God, it's so thin I couldn't see it. Wonder if it makes a difference. I can't believe I did that. Just pulled it right off of the CD I had put over there to dry. Oh, goodness. Talk about a boneheaded move. Now you can all stop laughing now. Now you want to make sure that it's sealed nicely right here along the edges, as you don't want that lifting up. I don't know if I ruined this or not. I think it'll be okay. And I'm going to put a coat of matte medium on top anyway to kind of seal it in there. You could use Mod Podge, you know, or polyacrylic, you know, any of those types of products. That's what I use to seal the imagery on my custom designed vases. If you want to see my video, I have a video series available on how I decoupage my vases. You look for it in the playlist. You should be able to find it. Okay, so now we got this, and I think I'll try and speed up the drying process a bit and then come back. I'm making a mess here. That's what happens when you have a small space to work in. So I'll be back soon. Okay, here's some Liquitex matte medium, and so I'm going to use this as a sealer. Hopefully some will come out. I guess my hole is bigger there than I thought. I'm going to I need to shake this up. I don't think I will ever buy giant containers of anything anymore. It's just, you know, I'm not working to the degree I used to, and it's just too easy for things to dry up on you and go bad. Now the matte mediums come in a matte, which is a non-glossy. You can get it glossy if you want, so if you'd rather have yours glossy, just buy accordingly. Okay, so now we need to have this dry. Again, stay well away from the CD. Made a big mess with this one, didn't I? You want to make sure you're working on a surface where it's not going to stick. You know, so don't work on paper, or, you know, you could do on plastic or glass. So you notice I didn't cut away all the way up, even with the CD. I want it to fully dry before I cut that close. And so I'll probably have to let this air dry for a while and come back to add some other finishing touches that I have planned. So anyway, I thank you for being with me, and I will be back. I'm just going to let these air dry and then pop back in when I can go to the next step. So see you in a few minutes. I'm not 100% dry yet, but I'm just impatient and want to get this finished up for you, so I'm going to cheat a little ahead, and I'm going to use some of the matte medium as if it were a glue, which of course you can do. So here's my idea. I'm going to make them both different in terms of how I finish them off. And so I'm going to use some, I think we can do this. I'm going to use some of this eyelash lace. And I need to put glue right on the back. Try to do this as carefully as I can. I am not I'm not going to go all the way around the circle. As many of you know, I'm an asymmetrical designer. I prefer working in asymmetric rather than symmetric. So I'm going to put this just on like about 2/3 of the CD. This is pretty pliable, so you can, you don't have to trim it, I don't think. You don't have to clip it to go around the curve. I don't think I got enough here along the edge. This is matte medium, and I'm hoping it will act just like a glue. You can use PVA if you wish. Now on top of that, I have this beautiful applique, and it's been in my stash for a while. I have another one just like it, so I could make a duplicate, but I would rather have each one be unique. So this is going to be glued down on top, and I think I better wait until the eyelash lace is fully adhered before I try to glue that down. Anyway, you won't need to see me actually do that to, know what you would have to do if you're going to do something similar. Now on this one, I have this large piece of lace here. This has a little warmer temperature. You can see it's kind of, the sequins have a slight yellowing tone to it, and so it's much warmer, which is fine because actually this bottom lace that I put down it's not white, it's an off-white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this so that I can glue that down. I'm not going to try to pick up this little cluster right here, but I'm going to glue that down on there like that, and I'm not going to try to put anything around the exterior. Just leave it a little more simplified and classy looking. So I think I better glue that before I do any cutting. So I'm laying in some more matte medium. and work out all the bubbles. Try and make sure this is going to dry clear. I'm trying to pull that clear of the edge of the CD. I don't want to have to cut into beads. But lace is only going to stretch just so far. I think I need more medium right there in the middle. I got kind of a puckering going on with the fabric. We won't find out until it's dry if this was successful or whether I botched it. I think I may have to live with a little puckering here and there. Anyway, you get the idea. I hope I have inspired you to look at your supplies and see what you've got to work with. And if you got some old CDs laying around, the only computer I have right now that had a CD player just broke. I mean, it's just gone. And so even if these CDs were music and I wanted to still listen to them, I can't right now. I don't have a way to play them. Anyway, it's a good time for me to, see what I have on hand that could be recycled into something beautiful, rather than just toss it in the trash. We have enough stuff going in the trash as it is, don't you think? So, anyway, I will glue this down later after my eyelash lace has dried. And so, yeah, there we have those two, and we have these two that I started with. And what else? These have now dried, so I can do something more on them or just leave them as they are. And happy with those. And then I've got these. And I may, now that these are, when they get really thoroughly dry, maybe tomorrow I might come back in and put a light coat of matte medium or Mod Podge, something like that, to protect them and to keep the paint from, getting scratched off. And so, keep that in mind if you're going to use acrylics. And don't forget to gesso them first, and you should be okay, I hope. I don't know for sure. So don't get mad at me if this whole thing just falls apart. Anyway, thanks for being here. I appreciate those of you that stayed to the end always, and leave me a comment. Be sure and like the video and, do all that good stuff. And then I'll see you in the next one, hopefully. Thanks again for watching. This is Miss Darling calling this a wrap. Bye-bye.